It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
And that's how we do it, man. Every single Wednesday. Terry T.B. Brown, Vinny Hardy in here, Cats Talk Wednesday. Appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen or watch. Roku, Spotify, all those various different platforms. BS3 Network. We definitely appreciate it, man. TB, how you doing?
Man, I am excellent. We right here out in the Midwest. It hasn't gotten quite winter yet, but I'm not whip on us. But
Hey, good stuff. I don't know if I got to. Can you hear me all right? If my mic was acting up. Can you hear me all right?
no, I got you. I'm gonna work through it. Could be on my end. Who knows?
All right. Well, we got a couple big time guests. About to send a link to our first guest right off the bat. Right up to the start of basketball season, we saw the Bahamas, of course, and then the Big Blue Madness, the Blue White game, and the photo of the coal miner Mike McGuire and his son went straight from work to the arena with his little boy. Sue Kinneer is our first guest. She's the one that actually took the photo, and then it just kind of spread, and Cal wanted to meet him, and just kind of blew up from there. So get to talk with Sue and just kind of get her perspective on how all that unfolded, and I think that'd be fun to talk with her. She'd been on quite a lot of stuff already and been featured, but a buddy of mine in Harlan County knew her, so he connected me to her, and so she agreed to come on. So looking forward to talking with Sue here in a minute. I'll get her the link. And you got another guest, man. You're glad you tell us about our second guest that's coming up after we talk with Sue.
Yeah, as Maggie Hendricks, she writes for Sports. She covers WNBA and women's sports. She was at the UConn Notre Dame women's basketball game a few weeks ago. So she does a little bit of everything. So excited to have her come on.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun, man. So 2 first-time guests, and looking forward to talking with both of them.
Yeah.
You popped up the memory. I saw it as well, that it was 4 years ago.
On my end.
Got a little delay, I think. Oh, no. Let me see. Just a little.
Yeah, that's on me. But yeah, we talking about 4 years ago. We had Fantastic. That was a great show. I listened to it again when you sent me the clip or the link. I said, "Oh, look at this."
Yeah,
and all the young guys. But yeah, I'm gonna sign out and sign back in. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay. Let me get. I'm gonna get Sue on here while Terry signs out and signs in. I'm gonna send her the link right now. And it is 4 years ago we had Sinbad on, so we talked about that before. And I'll tell Terry about somebody else that listened to that show once we get him back. Let me get Sue this link right quick. I know she is waiting on it. So here we go. Get her the StreamYard link. And hopefully Sue will be right on here, popping up in the studio backstage, the BS3 Green Room. So appreciate the BS3 network. Grateful to be part of the podcast umbrella. We had some of the hosts on here. Had Ben Sutter, the founder himself, on. Ivan Dawkins, creative director. Courtney Harden, big Eagles fan. Al High, Andre Jones, several BS3 personalities have come through and chopped it up with us. And we enjoyed being able to interact with them and be on their shows and have them on ours. So it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully get Sue Kinneer on here in just a second. Talk about the photo that went viral at the Blue White game in Pikeville. and get her thoughts and perspective on that. Talk about the Cats a little bit. We'll talk UK sports as well. We got UCLA coming up as Kentucky continues to still try to gel and find their way. So we'll get into that. The bowl season starts here in a couple days. Today the 14th. You got, I think, games starting on the 17th. The Bahamas Bowl and things of that nature. If y'all listened last week, we had our bowl spectacular. Had a lot of various different guests. Katie Drzinski and Adam Jacoby and Kerry Lewis talking about all the bowls. And that was a lot of fun. So go back and listen to that if you hadn't already, as you get yourself prepared for the upcoming bowl season that is upon us. Getting back to that Sinbad episode, TB, you talked about, it was 4 years ago since we had him on, and definitely still thinking about him with everything he's went through from a health standpoint over the past couple of years. But we had some episodes we're definitely proud of, even pre BS3 Network, and that's definitely ranks at the top of the list. Lee Steinberg, Sinbad, Dick Vitale. Had Roy on since we've been part of BS3, had Roy on before that. But got to give a shout out to somebody from your neck of the woods, because you text me the link. You tweeted out the memory of us having Sinbad on 4 years ago from Facebook. I went through and just looked at some of the comments and saw a commenter that said, I'd love to get your podcast. Haven't been able to listen to it or whatever. And so I messaged her, and she's from your neck of the woods. Her name was Mary Edwards. And I think she said she went to school with you. I think I got her name right. Let me make sure I'm not.
Yeah, Mary. Yeah, we went to elementary school together.
Okay, and so she said, "Oh, that was awesome to have Sinbad. I'd love to get your podcast." So I just messaged her and sent her the link, and then sent her like the Spotify link where, if she wants to go back, she can listen, or she can get each upcoming episode now. But she said y'all went to school together, and so that was cool. So going to give Mary a shout out, because she, was giving love to the Sinbad episode, and of course we know Michelle Morton is like our number one fan. She's sipping on something and relaxing when she listens to us from Wisconsin or Arizona, or about to play golf or whatever. She's went through and listened to the show every episode multiple times. She's fan number one. Got to give a shout out to Ann Anderson too, because Ann interacts with us on Twitter, and she'll like a tweet Michelle was saying. So I think Ann Anderson has worked her way into some Cats Talk Wednesday fandom, so we appreciate Ann as well. So she's tweeting at y'all on Round of Shots.
Absolutely,
she's liking the tweets from us. So yeah, Ann Anderson, we got to give Ann a shout out. Yeah, so
absolutely. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna have to switch in. So I don't know what's going on with that. So
okay,
pop back on.
Yeah, no problem. And let me see. I got a message from Sue. Let me see what it says. Hang on with me, folks. I might just mute and get that voice message. Let's see. Maybe she's having trouble getting on or something.
I can't hear you.
My mic is muted. My mic was muted for all that. Sorry about that, y'all. I was trying to get Sue back, and she had sent a voice message on Messenger, so I muted so I can listen to that. Folks, bear with us. We sorry. We producing on air. We got stuff going on. But yeah, let me resend the link to her. Your Lakers, man. I was saying it was an NBA Jersey Day, and I didn't comply with that. But they made a valiant effort after digging a humongous hole against the Celtics. Came up a little bit short. But just got down by too much and just wasn't able to overcome it.
Absolutely. So it didn't help that LeBron and AD had to play the entire second half, and that was the issue. Like I talked to you last week about the little run the Lakers went on, where Anthony Davis had to be superhuman to win those games, and you can't count on that night in, night out for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, even MJ and his greatness wasn't putting up double nickels every night. So that was always a concern for me, was if LeBron and AD have to be supermen every night, that's just not a sustainable situation.
Mm-hmm. So who's the most likely to step up consistently and help? Is it Russ? Is it somebody else? Who should it be? Who will it be? Will it be anybody? What we think?
I mean, it's got to be those two. But all I've ever said was, okay, we got to get through this first little bit of the season, right? If we can just get into the show, and that's a low standard for Lakers, right? I mean, That's not what we wanted. Chasing the 11 seed or 10 seed, that's not what the franchise is built on. But despite the horrendous start, you can still recover, I think. But you just don't want LeBron and AD have to carry that big burden as we start looking at the playoffs.
Yeah. So, I heard a little pop. Let me see if that's Sue. There she is. Let's get our guest on, Sue Kinneer, who popular in her own right because she took the photograph of Mike and Easton McGuire, and we will get Sue in here now. Hello, Sue. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good. Nice to meet you, and sorry about the little technical difficulties of
Well, I think that was my not so literate on computers.
Hey, we understand. The young kids always teach us when it comes to that kind of stuff.
That's true.
So thanks for coming on. You have no idea who we are, but we know each other, through Malcolm Wilson, and
right.
Malcolm's dad, Mac, worked with my dad at Sears when my dad was fresh out of high school. And so, I knew Mac going in there when I was little, and they knew me, and, friends of the family from back there in Lynch and Harlan County. So how did you get to know Malcolm?
Well, actually, when he moved to Blackie, he married a friend of mine.
Okay.
And then he's noted around here as our local photographer.
Yes, and photographer extraordinaire, we should add.
That's exactly right.
My dad passed last year. He did a feature on him and his Humans of Appalachia that he put on Facebook. He did an interview that was just unbelievably well done, and I'll still go back and read it or still play the audio, when I want to hear Dad's voice and stuff like that. But just the way Malcolm set it up and all the questions he asked, it was, if you didn't know my dad, you listen to it, that's him. So it was just unbelievable how he did it, and just can't thank him enough. And like I said, he's known me since before I was born, him and Tina and everybody. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we ain't trying to get in your business, but just tell us a little bit about Sue Kinneer and all that.
Well, I was raised here in Blackie in the hills, Letcher County, very proud of it. And then I left for about 25 years to work for the government. And when I retired, I returned. And I live sometimes in Florida and sometimes up here. I built a cabin up here in Letcher County, so that's where I stay most of the time.
There you go.
And I'm a big Wildcats fan, and that's what I was doing over in the blue white game.
Exactly. First of all, and we definitely gonna get to that. But how is everything with the flooding? Because Letcher County got hit, Neon got hit,
Yeah.
Whitesburg, Jenkins, all those. How is it a few months later, and how have you been since?
Well, actually, I was in Florida when they actually had the flood,
Okay.
but came back that week. It just destroyed us. That's all there is to it. It's just so sad, and everything's washed away, and now the help is pretty much gone. And my personal opinion, we didn't get a lot of the people that needed it didn't get as much help as they needed to get from our government, but that's another story. But yeah, it's sad, but they're very resilient and they're coming back, and but it's a slow process. It just wiped everything out.
And it was, yeah, in a small
But
town.
didn't have any damage. I'm up on the hill, so I didn't suffer any, but a lot of my friends did.
Right. Well, definitely glad that you're okay, and like you said, if nothing, we're resilient and always have been, and
Yeah,
keep on bouncing back and
yeah.
taking hits and bouncing back. So that's the
We're
way it's
not
always
gonna
gonna
give
be.
up.
No. So when you first heard that the blue white game was coming to Pikeville, TB and I talked about it, and I already knew. I said that thing is going to be packed out. The fact that it's coming
Right.
to the mountains. So just talk about being the Wildcat fan you are. You got the news, and just your thoughts about everything leading up to that.
Well, I've got a 15-year-old grandson, and if you've got a 15-year-old grandson, you will go to a UK ball game if they come close around. So I took him, and of course, it was a big deal for us. Everything, we love our coal miners and we love the Wildcats, and that's what really happens up here in the hills. So it was packed out. It was crowded. The ball team was just great. The Calipari was great. Signed autographs, so I know they thought that their hands were going to fall off. And they just did a great show for us, and all the proceeds were donated for the area. It was a great thing and a big thing for us.
Yeah.
A lot of us never watched the Cats except on TV. You can't afford to go. And so yeah, a lot of probably 3/4 of the gym or arena was filled with people that had never seen the Cats before.
Which was such a good idea because there's plenty of games for everybody in Lexington. There's going to be plenty in Rupp Arena. So you just take one game and move it to Pikeville, and Pikeville's growing and got a nice arena, and Pike and everything that they've been doing there. So
Yeah.
To let all those people just get a glimpse of UK up close and in person, it was unbelievable. I was just so glad that they did.
They were right there. They were signing autographs and T-shirts and whatever. Poor Oscar. They just bombarded him.
So who's your favorite player on this team? I know the season is young, but who's your favorite so far?
Well, it's really, I change every week. It started out with Wheeler. Of course, I love Oscar, but he's got enough fans. He don't need me. And I would say between Wheeler and Toppin, I guess I like them.
Okay. And TB, jump in anytime, man. Don't let me just be.
Well, I'm all the way out in Iowa now, Miss Sue, but I'm a Kentucky boy born and raised. And trying to explain to people not from Kentucky what Eastern Kentucky means, this is what I tell folks. St. Louis calls itself the gateway to the West, but the first gateway to the West was the Cumberland Gap. That was the first place where America went from the colonies to see what else was here. And I tell folks, that kind of hardy we're going to make it because we're going to make it. That's what Kentucky, and specifically Eastern Kentucky, is all about.
It really is. I mean, we've never had it easy up here in the hills. And so we're used to hard times, but once the mines got shut down and stuff, it really affected the economy, and through all of it, we don't have a whole lot to cheer on, but we cheer each other on and the Wildcats. So yeah, Eastern Kentucky. It's I was raised here, and I'll never leave. I leave and come back, and that seems what everybody does. And if you're not from here, people don't understand why you want to be here. But it's a great big family. It's what it is.
Absolutely, and seeing the team come and shed some light on that devastation, I thought was a good thing. And then and the game and Vinny, I guess, is our segue to that photo that kind of went all over the world. That was,
I know, it was unbelievable.
It was, and trying to explain to folks that's what Kentucky is all about.
It is, and 30 years ago, that photo would have been just as common. You go to any place and you'll see all these guys in their work mining, just come from the mines. But anymore, it's not like that. Most of the mines are shut down, and especially this particular game, it wasn't, like that. Everybody had their Wildcat and shirts on it, including myself, and then there's this miner with this little boy.
So I take it you didn't know Mike beforehand. I guess you get your popcorn, you get your ticket, you and your grandson are there, you listen to everything, and then you just kind of see him out the corner of your eye, or how did that work?
Well, he was sitting across from me, but to the right. So I wasn't that. I mean, he wasn't sitting right like on the same place that I was, but I could see him well, and I could see the little boy, and he just stood out. You could tell he was tired, and the little boy, he was so cute. He was just jumping up and down, having the best time. Had little red tennis shoes on with his cat shirt, and I thought, this little, I don't know, he's probably about 3 or 4. And I thought, this little boy has been ready, I bet, since noon, waiting for his dad to get home and take him to the ball game. So anyway, I took the picture because I thought, I don't know who this guy is, but I think he should be Father of the Year.
Mm.
And I thought, when I posted it on my Facebook page when I was at the ball game, but then I was thinking on the way home, if Calipari could just see this picture, he may send this little boy a autograph schedule or something.
Mm-hmm.
And well, he did that and a lot more.
He sure did.
Yeah.
So you posted, and after you posted out, you might not have checked your mentions, and you're watching the game. You post it, and then you start watching the game. When do people start reaching out to you? Well, we
didn't have the signal over there, which up in the hills is bad. People take that, you don't have phone signal anywhere. You don't have internet signal anywhere. So anyway, I finally got it to post, got a signal long enough to post it. And then when I got home, I thought, I'm going to post this on a couple of Wildcat sites I belong to.
Mm.
So I did that, and that was Saturday night. Then Sunday, I don't even know if I got on the internet. And then Monday morning, I got up to read the news, and my pictures everywhere. And House is asking, who are these people? Big Blue Nation, who is this man and this little boy?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I'm like, I wrote on there, I said, oh my gosh, there's my photo. But I didn't know who the guy was.
Right.
And then this other person said, oh no, there's my husband. And it was Molly McGuire, the wife.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, and then she immediately sent me a message and a friend request on Facebook. And we spoke for a little bit, and my phone was just blowing up. And then the media got a hold of it. And then they were called. And then for about probably a day, it was confused as to who took the photo. There was a guy up here that used my photo on his Facebook, but took my caption off and put his on there. So some people thought, one of the news stations thought it was his. But we got that straightened out.
There you go.
That was, it wasn't that I really, wasn't trying to get any publicity, but I'm like, that's my photo. That's not yours.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then I just started getting calls, and Molly was getting calls, and the media, well, they wanted interviews. Most of them didn't want to talk to me. They wanted to know who this guy was, but they wanted to know if they could use my photo. And of course, I said, of course, and it just went crazy.
Unbelievable.
It was, and I still haven't talked to the husband, Mike McGuire, but I have talked to his wife, and his parents have reached out to me several times. Very, very good people. But I couldn't be more pleased with what happened to that family because of my photo.
Right. You were coming from a good place the whole time, and just
yeah.
like.
I'm like, oh, if Calipari, this little boy could just get Calipari's signature, this would just be great for him growing up. And then, Calipari he went all out with it.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll say about Coach Cal, not just basketball, but he gets it. He understands it with his position. He can shed that spotlight on Eastern Kentucky with the flooding, Western Kentucky with the tornadoes.
Exactly.
And we can have our quibbles with his X's and O's, but I don't think there's a better coach that just gets it like he does.
Well, you're exactly right. And that was the thing. Some people said, well, that's not uncommon up here. But like Calipari said, the picture didn't represent really the ball game. I could tell, I knew that this guy had got off work and come straight and brought his little boy to that game. It was the father-son image that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And, you could tell he was tired. And that's what Calipari saw in it. He wasn't trying to, boost his ball team. He doesn't have to. But most people saw what I saw.
It was a special moment that you were able to capture. That's one of those iconic photographs. And when this season, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sue.
I'm not even, that was just, my brother is a professional photographer, and he hasn't had a picture go viral. His camera equipment is worth more than all the property that I own. And then my little iPhone takes a picture and it goes viral.
That's the way it goes.
I still look back at it sometimes, and I still get the same fuzzy feeling when I see that. But seeing it, because I watched them almost the whole ball game. That little boy was so cute. But it was an amazing moment for me before it went viral.
Yeah, yeah. And, me growing up where I grew up, and like you said, 20, 30, 40 years ago, this was very common. You go into Kaz Walker, you go into Food Land, you see guys, from the mines picking up some groceries before they go home. You go to the football game on Friday night. Some guys just come from work and just come on out to the ball game and, didn't go home and change, just go. And, you would see guys from the mountain. Both of my grandfathers worked in the coal mines for 35, 40 years. My mom's dad was still working when I was a kid. So I'd see him come home from work from the mine. You saw that kind of thing all the time. And the whole thing, like you said, you could tell he was tired. Now, us being older, we realize how much stuff our parents did for us when they were tired. We all have kids now. We've done stuff for our kids when we were tired. So you just get a whole perspective, and we all have been where Mike was with his little son, been tired and just pushing through, trying to do something fun and nice for your kids.
One of the best parts of that story, this was Monday when went viral. And Michael works in the mine, down in the deep mines. So once you go down there, you don't know nothing else until you come up. There's no phone signal. There's nothing down there. So all this was going on, and he was down in the mines and didn't know anything about it. And when the trolley came up with them that evening, that's when he realized, he found out what was going on. So this all took place, and he had no idea that it was happening.
Unbelievable. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just so nice that you were able to capture it. And look, I can't speak to this, but you and Terry both, Terry's went viral before on Twitter. He's a big social media superstar.
There you go.
Well, so I don't know what that's like, but the two of y'all have done some really cool things, and this picture, Sue, is right there at how it gave the world a little taste of our little neck of the woods.
Yeah. Molly said that she just got messages from people in other countries, and and just it wasn't that big right around here, but when it got out of the hills, it went crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was a different thing for them, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it worked out like it did, and I'll probably end up getting a picture and have it framed. Maybe I'll get Michael to sign it.
There you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, when you talk to him, tell him we said hello, and got to get your thoughts too, because big game this Saturday with UCLA. So how you feeling about playing those Bruins up in New York?
Yeah, I that's one thing I've learned. You just can't predict the Cats. Right, you don't be behind and I don't know what Cal says to them in that locker room sometime at halftime, but they come out like a different team. But hopefully, I'll be watching no matter what happens, and I'm a diehard fan. If they don't win a game, if they end up like Louisville, I'll still be for them.
Me too. We all would.
And I don't dislike Louisville like a lot of them do. If Kentucky's not playing, I'm for Louisville. Louisville's still a Kentucky team. But and then of course now me and my grandson will be going to the UK-LSU game.
Oh.
Compliments of the coach.
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah. That was the only thing I was hoping that I'd get basketball. I'd get tickets. So I've never seen them play at Rupp Arena. So,
oh, man.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
We'll have to have you back on after your trip to Rupp if you want to come back and talk about that.
Well, we may have to do that.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I hope y'all have a blast, and glad y'all are getting to go to Rupp. You get to see them in Pikeville and Lexington in the same year. You can't beat that.
Yeah, we're both excited. My grandson's very excited about that now.
Yeah, that's something special that both of y'all, that's a memory both of y'all are gonna have.
Yeah, I could never afford to take him any other way.
Yeah.
Those tickets are so expensive.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely.
I've watched them for 2 years, and I was like, no.
Mm-hmm.
When you got to buy two. But anyway, yeah, we'll enjoy it. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to get you back on after the LSU game. And we was just honored that you wanted to come on and talk to us this evening, Sue. We've enjoyed it.
I was honored. I mean, Malcolm sent me a message. I said, Corey, I'm proud of my photo. I'm proud of our coal miners. There's that's a hardworking people right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's some dangerous work.
Yes.
Absolutely. The best of us. Well, thank you for capturing that moment and just sharing with the world, literally, our little neck of the woods in Kentucky, because everybody got to puff their chest out with that whole strap shot. So that's fantastic.
One thing I want to recognize while we're talking before we quit, also up here, we've made last Friday, Good Morning America was up here.
I saw that.
We've got a grocery store, and it's about, 3 or 4 miles from me. But Gwen and her family own the grocery store. and it's the only one we got. If you saw it, you already know that story.
Yeah.
But she's a precious friend of mine, and so we're real proud of her too. So we've had a little bit of media up here, big media since the flood. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I saw that. And, speaking of Malcolm, Malcolm made that clip as well. They were talking to him. So, absolutely. I just,
Represents us well.
yeah, he is one of a kind. And, you're not going to find a better person than Malcolm. I sent that. I was asking my mom and sister about it because been to Iceland many times, been to Whitesburg, going over to Hazard, you go right through there. So yeah, been over there a ton, and was glad to see Iceland making Good Morning America for all the good stuff that Gwen and her family are doing. They deserve it.
Yeah, that they do.
Yeah, so thank you again, Sue. Can't thank you enough for hopping on here.
Absolutely.
So nice to meet you and talk with you this evening.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I've enjoyed talking to both of you all. And maybe we'll go viral again or something, and we'll try this again.
There we go.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of everybody I see.
You never know. You just never know.
That's for sure.
Thank you so much, Sue. We really appreciate it.
Have a good evening. God bless you.
Thank you.
Sue.
Thank you. Miss Sue Kinneer, the one who snapped the photo of Mike and Easton McGuire at the Blue White game, man. That's just nice to get her perspective. We saw it blow up, but just everything from her end and what she saw, and that was so cool talking to her.
Absolutely. Like I said, once it went, that's Kentucky right there. That's what I'd shared with folks here. That I know there's hardworking folks everywhere, right? I get that, but Kentucky's different.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that was the gateway to the West. That was the hardy folks that had to go through the Appalachians and stay there and make a life. That's what Kentucky is. That's why we're the first state west of the Appalachians. It's that adventurous spirit. It's that hardy. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to get through it somehow. Don't get me all teared up because I watched watching. What game was it? It was on like SEC Network Plus, where they didn't go to commercial. They just kept showing the game. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what game that was. And I caught my old Kentucky home at the end of the game. And, it hits different when you're away from home. It's a little bit different. And I know my old Kentucky home. I know the history. There's some problematic verses and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But it just hits different when you're away from home. And it's always good to come back home. I know you know that feeling. I know that feeling as well. Kentucky, a little bit different.
Yeah. I'll go back home when I go from here, it's right through Middlesboro and that Cumberland Gap that you mentioned. But on my trip to Green Bay, come back Chicago, Indy, and you hit Kentucky from your neck of the woods, crossing the bridge into Louisville and seeing that sign. I meant to get a picture of the sign from your perspective and send it to you, but I think was I driving? I think I was driving. I can't remember, but it snuck up on me. I was looking for it, and it was up on me. It was gone. I was like, "Oh man!" But
I always take a picture when I come back home. I always take a picture. Welcome to Kentucky, because it just hits a little bit different.
Absolutely. So thanks again to Sue for coming on with us and enjoy getting everything from her perspective, and looking forward to Maggie here in a few minutes too, man. So
we're gonna be talking about all kinds of stuff. We rocking and rolling, man.
Yeah, for sure. The big news was the sad news with Mike Leach passing. And speaking of Kentucky, he kind of got his start in Kentucky as far as big schools, but I didn't know, but him and Hal Mummy was in Iowa, Mount Pleasant, kind of when they, doodling on a chalkboard. Yeah, offense. So there's an Iowa Kentucky thing with the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Leach, the thing I liked about Mike Leach, and we talked about this on Spaces last night. For me, he was a coach that didn't take football too seriously and didn't take himself seriously. Now, sometimes he was wild and out of pocket, but you kind of miss that a little bit, right? I mean, think about the Nick Sabans and the Kirby Smarts and, some of these other coaches. They just don't have that pizzazz like how we used to have them, right?
They're all buttoned up now.
Right. But his whole thing was football is just a part of life. It's not life itself. And so the one thing in all the Mike Leach stories is he was always curious.
Yeah.
He was always gracious. He was always, there's more to it than football. Like, he's not one of these guys that's going to sleep in his office and all this kind of stuff. And by the way, he really kind of revolutionized a lot of what football was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And so being that he started his big college market, Kentucky, what I said last night, like, look, Mummy and Leach got us to 7 wins.
Yep.
Those are different than these 7 wins, because if you're not going to get to 10 or 11 wins, you're only going to get to 7. Boy, you better have some fun doing it. And, you look back, the record wasn't great. Obviously, Stoops has come and done his thing. And I understand people's affection for air raid at the Kentucky level, because it was just fun.
Yeah.
It was just fun. Like,
Mm-hmm.
was winning football necessarily? No. Was it sustainable long term? Not necessarily. No. But was it fun? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to get to 7 wins, make it fun. So him making his mark here, going to Texas Tech, going to Washington State, and then coming back to the SEC.
Think of those places. That's not Auburn. It's not Michigan. It's not USC. We talking about Texas Tech, Washington State, and Mississippi State. Lubbock, Pullman, and Starkville. I mean, he wasn't at the big kids table of college football.
And that's what I've always said. Again, if you are not going to be playoff bound or whatever, you got to do what works,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got whatever that is. You can call it gimmicky. You can call it whatever. But for me, you got to do whatever it takes to get some wins. So it's a loss for college football. College football is going to be a lot less interesting without
Mm-hmm.
Mike Leach. I would definitely like to see him in the Hall of Fame. I know he's a few wins short. Also, bizarrely, Howard Schnellenberger is not in the College Football Hall of Fame. And I agree with Louisville's Mark Ennis. You can't tell the history of college football over the last 40 years without the guy that put Miami Hurricane football on the map.
Yeah.
And the guy that made the air raid, pass the ball around offense popular and viable. You just can't do that. When I think of the Hall of Fame, I think of, there are people that achieve milestones, right? But there's also people that you can just recognize, even just, I don't want to say flashes in the pan, but to me, the biggest travesty of any Hall of Fame is Bo Jackson's not in football or baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of a better football player or baseball player not in, right? Because he didn't have those numbers. But was Bo Jackson that dude in both sports? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there needs to be a understanding of, yes, there are numbers and that kind of stuff, but you got to have dudes that just meant something to the sport.
No.
Like you can't talk about football without talking about Bo Jackson doing it as a hobby.
Running over Brian Urlacher, running up the tunnel, running up the wall in the outfield like Spider-Man after he tracked down a fly ball. And just,
you said Brian Urlacher's Bosworth, baby.
Oh, my bad.
The Bos. Like, he ran through that dude.
He done ran through Urlacher too.
Yeah. But the fact that he did football as a hobby is something to do in the baseball offseason. Like, dude just rolled out of bed, won a Heisman. Like, I'm just doing this to keep myself in shape. That's got to be just disheartening, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Mike Leach. Tremendous loss. and just all the different stories of what he did for student reporters. And he would show up on this person's show and that person's show. That means a lot.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where, for me, football was just something he did, but he wasn't necessarily a football coach.
He wasn't so one-track minded that, you know, he couldn't function when he wasn't talking about football. He, like you said, he going post-game interviews talking about candy, pre-game interviews asking kids what their favorite ice cream is, and you know, he wasn't just so locked in that he couldn't. And our second guest just popped in the green room too, so we gotta let you introduce her, man. She's in the BS3 network green room.
In the green room, we've got Maggie Hendricks is going to join us. She's a writer for Bally Sports, covers all kinds of fun stuff. And we actually got to break bread, I want to say a month or so ago. So one of our few guests I've actually met in person before they came on the show. So there you go. So Maggie, hello.
Hello, friends. How are you?
Hey.
Doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Adam Jacoby is going to check us out here later on.
I am sewing something as we talk. It's just something to keep my hands busy, but just so you're not like, what the heck is she doing with her hands?
You so and so. So I was telling Vinny before he came on, I know that you had just covered a few weeks ago the UConn Notre Dame women's basketball game. And full disclosure, I am late to the party on women's basketball and women's athletics.
That's okay.
But I am here. I've got my girls. Vinny knows we've done what? Gymnastics and anything like that. So you do great coverage of women's basketball and women's sports. So my question is, if you could wave a magic wand on like women's basketball, the WNBA, what would you do to kind of get them, I don't want to say more publicity, but get them where they need to be? That's a bad question, Vinny. I should have wrote this down.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Honestly, I just get them on TV more often. There is a matchup this weekend. I think it's on Saturday. Creighton and Arkansas, both ranked teams. It's not on TV. I'm an AP poll voter. I'm going to have to just, focus on basically the box score. That's the only way I'll be able to follow it. And so I think the biggest thing is just more television so that people could watch it. Because we've found again and again and again that, like, when you look at volleyball, when you look at the NWSL, and when you look at the WNBA, when people are given a chance to watch women play, they watch women play. So if they're just given that chance and put more on TV, one of the things that is happening this season is every Sunday there's been a marquee matchup at 2 o'clock Central on ABC, which is great, but it's also against football, and we all know what a behemoth the NFL is. I mean, I'm sitting there with the college game on my iPad in Red Zone going in the background because I want to watch both, So but if I could wave a wet magic wand, it would just be that. It would just be more TV.
That makes sense. Because, I mean, when it's on, we watch. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember the Tennessee UConn games that were on TV back in the 90s. And you tune in and watch Rebecca Lobo and Candace Parker and Gino and Pat. So, yeah, it's.
But I don't think, and Maggie, I want to get you, because way back then, because Vinny always likes to remind me how old I am, but it just seemed to be that it was just Tennessee UConn. But now you've got great talent all over the place. So you don't even need to look at the UConns, because now South Carolina is a thing. And you got Caitlin Clark here in Iowa. You've got all these great players. So you don't even have to look at the two big ones. It's all over the place.
Yeah, the parity is incredible. And I mean, the amount of upsets that have already happened this season have been, I mean, just absolutely huge. I mean, and like you bring up Iowa, the games like Iowa State right now are two just really, really fun teams. And I'm so glad they play each other. And that's the other thing of it is, for the most part, women's teams will fill up their non-conference schedule with real competition. You have all of these, like Stanford and South Carolina, the top two programs in the last two national champions, played each other in week 3 of the season. So like, that's the other thing is, like, I know it's not that way as much as it used to be with men's college basketball, but there are no cupcake schedules because the coaches don't want them. And the coaches also, there's such a collegiality that they're like, because it's not just about winning, it's about building women's sports. So when you have that bigger goal, then the coaches are going to be working together, not at each other.
And so as we pay more attention, we hope we don't have situations like, was it a couple of years ago with the women's Final Four and that viral monstrosity?
Yeah.
Was it like a shake weight? We shouldn't have
sure.
that kind of discrepancy.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised looking at how the NCAA treats women's basketball versus men's basketball. Like, they're not treated the same.
Oh, no.
And to follow that up with even the WNBA, I think it was Kelsey Bloom that was talking about, they just want the same piece of the pie that the men get. It's not the dollar amount, it's just the percentage, and they're not even getting that. That blew my mind away, that we keep saying that these leagues and sports can't stand up on their own, but we're not giving them that opportunity.
Yeah. We're not giving them the legs. And Kelsey Plum's 100% right about that. And she actually was just elected to the Players Association for the WNBA. And I think she'll be a fantastic voice there. But they don't get the same percentage. And like, when you look at, it's so funny how much labor law we all learn over the past few years with having with all the different work stoppages you look at the percentage, and it's in most of the men's leagues, it's close to 50-50. And it's just nowhere near that in the WNBA. And the thing is, and the reason why the women are smartly speaking up about this now, is that the ESPN contract is, I believe, set to expire after the 23 season. And everybody in the WNBA knows that ESPN, to hold on to the WNBA, is going to have to pay a lot more money. And paying a lot more money means a lot more money to the players. So the players are saying now, hey, let's do something about this. Let's fix this percentage now, so that when this windfall happens, then we get more money, which they should. They're the product.
Absolutely. Like I said, I still stay stunned at the stuff that you don't even think about. Because again, I'm late to the party. The WNBA.
Don't feel bad about that. You're at the party now, and I hope you're having a dang good time.
Absolutely. I want to say, Vinny, it was probably when I took the girls to our first women's soccer game. And I was like, you know what? This is not bad. And, and we've taken it. And Maggie, I've been able to take my youngest. We've covered a bunch of events. She sat in press row with me. I need to send you the pictures. It's the most adorable thing. The most adorable thing ever. Just to let her know, my girls probably won't play at Rupp Arena, but they will play at these other venues. And I want them to see that there are young women like them that can do these things. Because knock wood, Vinny, my oldest, we're still hoping for a lacrosse scholarship, so we'll see how that goes. So we're right there. We're right there.
Yeah, and it's that you got to see it to be it, right? So you want them to see what these women are capable of. And also, you know what I always see at women's games is before and after somebody's doing their homework. Somebody, like, basketball, of course, is the most important thing, but also making sure they get their final in. The day, I think it was the week after the WNBA draft, Shakira Austin, who was played for the Washington Mystics as a rookie this year, and I believe she was on the all-rookie team, but fantastic player. But a week or two after the draft, she's like, "How many other professional athletes are getting finals in right now? Because that's what I'm doing. I'm getting this in, you know." And so I think that's the cool thing about it is they get to see your daughters and everybody and sons, all the kids get to see this just incredible breadth of what athletes are and who they are just by watching the women's games, and it's so great.
Real life situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went, Vinny. I think it was the softball game where Kentucky was playing Illinois. We talked to one of the Illinois players' dad, and my daughter Lauren was asking all kinds of questions, and he was like, he tries to see her whatever she's doing. I mean, it's just a great moment. I'm rambling, but it was just great, and she's taking her notes, and it was just a fantastic thing. So I'm trying to do better talking about women's sports because our volleyball team at Kentucky, very, very good.
Yeah.
Women's basketball has done very, very well here recently. So, and obviously with, Vinny, I'm drawing a blank. Sydney.
Track. And Abby Starling,
yeah. So it's just great time to watch women's sports and support women's sports.
Yeah. And to me, the most important thing is treating women's sports like sports. Like, that's, just the way you would break down a game between Kentucky and Louisville, the men. Well, Kentucky just lost to Louisville with the women the other day. So, like, what went wrong in that game? And being honest about it is fine, And I think, but I really think that's the biggest key from a media perspective is we just got to talk about sports like sports. I was in the cab during the All-Star game for the WNBA, which was in Chicago this year, where I am, and I was talking to my cab driver, and I said something about. He said, "Oh, what are you going there for?" And I said, "Oh, it's the WNBA All-Star game." And I said, "Yeah, Chicago Sky right now." He goes, "I know, they're in first place." I was like, "That's on me for underestimating you." I felt bad about that, but it was like one of those moments of like. I would, if the Bulls were in first place, I would never say to the cab driver, "Well, the Bulls are in first place." So I have to, make sure I reframe my mind too, because there are fans everywhere.
That's it. And as far as Louisville and Kentucky, Louisville's size was problematic for Kentucky. That was a big issue.
I mean, Louisville was in the Final Four last year. They did lose a couple of players, but they're still. And they've been up and down so far, but they're still a really good team. And Kentucky lost their very beyond best player. Ryan Howard is just she's special, and she's rookie of the year. She's gonna do some amazing things in the W, and I'm excited to see her do them in Atlanta because she's just really fun to watch.
And Vinny and I have had this conversation when we talk about best basketball players in Kentucky. Ryan Howard's on that list, men or women. She's on that short list with the Anthony Davises, just for my lay opinion. And so I'm glad that she is getting to show what she can do in the WNBA.
Yeah, and Atlanta has, I think, the number 3 pick in the draft for this year, so they just barely missed the playoffs. So I really think Atlanta is going to get a really good shot this year at making a run. And I think Ryan's going to have a whole, she has 1 season in her. She's not a rookie anymore. And she's playing in Italy right now. And when you throw all those things together, the players mature a lot when they go overseas. And so I'm really excited to see what her sophomore year is going to be like.
Yeah, get a lot of accelerated seasoning, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah,
especially in Italy, you get a little sauce on it, right?
Oh yeah, not lacking for seasoning in Italy.
So Meg, I know you write for Bally Sports. So what all do you cover? I know WNBA, some women's basketball, but what all is in your wheelhouse?
So yeah, the WNBA and women's college basketball are the main 2. But I'm very lucky to have bosses that are like, if you have a story that you want to cover, then you go cover it. And I love the Olympics. And so I've gotten to do a lot of Olympics writing. I've done some NBA, some NFL. Once upon a time, I was an MMA writer, but I don't want to go back to that. So, I mean, I'm very, very lucky. I just now that I cover women's sports, it's please don't take offense to this, but it's hard to go back to covering men because women are just so great to cover. So so really, I think the real answer to that story is women's sports and whatever story out there inspires me. And luckily, I mean, sports are just chock full of them. It helps if the story's happening in a Valley sports city, which I don't live in. Funny enough, I don't live in a Valley sports city. But if there's like for example, last year, Lisa Byington, when she was named the play-by-play for the Milwaukee Bucks, she was the first woman in the NBA to be named to that job. And so, in Milwaukee is a Valley sports team, and the Bucks are our partners. So I went up and wrote a story about her and about breaking boundaries and that. The funny thing about it is, she, like many journalists, not really comfortable with being covered. So it was she finally had to admit to me, like, no, this feels super weird to me. And I was like, thank you for saying it. I feel much better now because I thought it was me. So I'm glad to know it's just the situation. So, but yeah, so like whatever stories come up, I'm pretty lucky to be in that position.
But you just maybe gave us a clue to what the answer might be, but as far as what your favorite is, but your favorite piece you've ever written and your favorite event that you've ever covered.
Okay, so my favorite piece that I've ever written was actually when I was at USA Today. It was the 25th, I believe, maybe 50th anniversary. Yeah, 50th anniversary of the Special Olympics. And I profiled a family here in Chicago about what the Special Olympics meant to them. And it was a difficult piece to write because it was very much out of my wheelhouse. But it was also, I think, something that I'm very, very proud of. And the best event, I got to say, Chicago winning its first WNBA title. That was a really special thing where like the Chicagoan in me was just as much the women's sports writer. But also, I do have to make sure I mention in 2013, I got to go to the first UFC women's fight. And I think I might have lost some hearing that day. It was so loud at the then Staples Center. It was a really, really cool thing to get to be at.
At the Staples Center, Vinny, are you familiar with the Staples Center?
Oh, the
what is it?
The crypto,
yeah,
the funny money. That's what y'all doing now.
Who was in the 1991 NBA Finals?
1991 NBA Finals. That was the Lakers versus the Chicago Bulls, I believe.
Oh, and who won that?
I believe it's the Chicago Bulls.
Okay, just wanted to point that out to your Lakers jersey.
Didn't y'all spot the Lakers game 1 too? Y'all just gave them game 1 and then won 4 straight.
Do not invite Maggie back.
No, I can't be blacklisted from Des Moines. I have to go to Lachelle's again.
Oh yeah. That's the spot, Vinny. When you ever come through, we gotta take you to Lachelle's.
Oh, that is the best burger I've possibly ever had in my life, and I've eaten a lot of burgers. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the spot. It's the truth. We moved out in the suburbs, and we still have to go back in to get some of the shells.
Yeah.
I just finally made it to your city a couple weeks ago, Maggie. Just finally made my first trip to Chicago. Me and a buddy were going to watch Cowboys Packers, so we went to Chicago. So now I got to scratch Des Moines off the list. I did all the touristy stuff. Went to the top of the Willis Tower.
Good.
Got a beef sandwich from Portillo's, and the pizza from got a slice of deep dish from what was the place? I can't even think of the name of the place now.
Giordano's?
Yeah. Went there and got some pizza. So all the touristy.
It's good. It's good to do. You know what? When you're a tourist, you should be a tourist. I'm all for it. My husband and I'll sometimes just take days where like we'll take the day off of work and go be a tourist in our own city. It's fun.
Yeah.
That is exactly something my dad used to tell me all the time. You should know what makes your city special.
Yes.
And back in Louisville, before I moved here to the Great Midwest, we had the cultural pass for kids during the summertime. It was partnered with your library card, and you would get free admission to different museums and different attractions. The Slugger Museum, Churchill Downs, just so you could understand, okay, what makes my town special? I think that's great.
Well, and it's also knowing what Louisville can be like in the summer, like having a good place that's air conditioned and you can enjoy yourself and it's free. That's huge. That's huge to have those places.
Yeah, the Muhammad Ali Center, things like that. So
that's great.
Took our boys up there, sure did. So Cubs or White Sox, man? Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Cubs, 4th generation Cubs fan.
Okay.
It is in my blood.
So we won't talk about the off season. My wife is we can't talk about the Cubs.
It's one of those things where I'm a sports reporter. I've been one for 14 years now. I understand, but then like the Cubs fan heart in me is like, what are we doing? And so it just is the most frustrating thing to be a Cubs fan right now. I was actually at Wrigley Field last night because they have this Winter Wonderland super fun thing that like I was drinking a hot chocolate from the middle of left field. Like it's insane. You go on the field and there's all these attractions. It's so much fun. It's $5.
Wow.
And so it was so cool. But then, and I live like a mile from Wrigley. It's great. Oh. But then at the same time, I'm so annoyed with them. And so it's like all of this, and there's cognitive dissonance, but
right. So I'm not up on, well, I'm keeping up with the Braves hot stove, but not the Cubs. So is it lack of move, dumb moves, not making moves? What are we?
Well, they signed Cody Bellinger, but like, who cares? I mean, I'm not anti Cody Bellinger, but I like that doesn't move the needle, right? Shortstops are what move the needle, and that's what you're building your team around. Everybody's building who's competing is building their team around, and the Cubs are like, oh, that's too much money. Well, then what are we doing here? What are we doing?
He's not on that same arc as he was a few years ago, to where it's not like it's intriguing or exciting for you.
He was injured and hasn't really come back to himself, and like that's fine. And you know what, Cody, get your money, good for you. But
is it fair to say that the Ricketts have squandered all the goodwill from 2016?
Absolutely. And
that's hard to do.
And it wasn't just on the field. Let's be honest about that. The governor of Nebraska, who has been doing some things I'm not fond of, I'll just say. And this is a blue state in a very liberal city, and that there was a Trump event hosted at Wrigley, and there, like just things like that. Even if they wouldn't have squandered it on the field, they've squandered it off, and now they've squandered in both places. And so, yeah, I would think like 4 years ago, a Ricketts wouldn't be able to buy a drink if they walked into a bar in Chicago. And now I don't think they should walk into a bar in Chicago,
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to believe. And I was giving some Cubs fans a hard time because it's like, oh, you win a championship. But my understanding from my lovely wife, it's the way they went about dismantling the on the field product on top of everything else,
right?
Where it's like, you got to go down swinging,
right? And the other thing is when the on the field product I understand the dismantling. It made me sad. It made me very sad in the way it was handled, but I do understand it. But then the whole idea is to dismantle so that you can rebuild again, right? There's been no rebuilding. There's been nothing. Mm-hmm. And so, like, to see all those guys go who wanted to stay in Chicago and who are happy here, we liked see them go, okay, fine. And now what? So.
Like, so based on that, the Marlins would win a World Series and then have a fire sale. But I guess even they're like, wow, Chicago, really?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
I always thought the Marlins were kind of upfront with what they were doing. Like, we're going to win this, and then the next day, everybody, everything's got to go. I thought they were pretty upfront with it.
Soon as the parade's over, y'all get on out of here.
Don't come back to the stadium.
Don't come back.
We can't.
Statue either. Home run statue.
So I'm a Cubs fan by proxy now. I was
married well.
I did. I'm an Expos fan. And so that makes me an anomaly in a lot of different ways. Yeah. So I'm just watching this from afar, and I'm like, look, man, I see miserable Cubs fans, and I'm just like, baseball's too long of a season to be miserable, man. That's 160 games of being not enjoying what you're doing.
And that's the thing that's nice about the WNBA season. It completely goes with the MLB season. So I can at least ignore some of my heartbreak. I can just be like, let me know when there's a Cubs game today so I know when to expect traffic. But other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, after spring training, then you got WNBA. That'll carry you through a good chunk of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, WNBA season usually ends end of September, early October. So then I just am around for then it's like, oh, playoffs. Oh, those are fun.
That reminds me, I've got a question I meant to ask. Are they going to let the WNBA players fly in private jets, or are they still having to fly commercial? I know that was the thing.
That won't change until there's a CBA figuring out. But they were on private jets for the finals. The thing is that it's more about what the location is if the private jet is necessary. Because like if you're flying Las Vegas to Chicago, there's a million flights a day. That's no problem. If you are flying Las Vegas to Connecticut, the closest airports to Connecticut are an hour away, either Providence or Hartford, and then you got to do an hour-long bus ride. Or there are smaller airports nearby that if you did a private jet, you could go straight into. So a lot of times it's not even just about what the team is, or as much as where you're going, because for me to fly to Connecticut, it was a huge pain in the butt, and I had to do a 45-minute long flight to Providence, and it was silly.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be in the NBA back when Vinny's Rockets were good. So they had to catch a bunch of flights.
He's just mad. He's just mad because they named an award after Akeem and they didn't name one after Kareem. That's all he's mad about.
Kareem already had one though. Kareem has the social justice one.
Right. I figured that out after I tweeted angrily, like nothing for Kareem, and somebody pointed out.
He was wanting a Sky Hook of the Year award or something, but Dream got Defensive Player of the Year award, and that's I understand. And look, the Rockets still have more wins than the Lakers. That's what I needed. That's what you probably mad about that too.
Oh man, we just completely lost Terry. Terry's all mad at us.
You got 2 championships at the Rockets. Leave me alone.
He takes his little shots because
it's all right.
LA got 17, and but he looks down. He looks down his nose at.
Oh, don't say that to our first guest coming on for the first time. I look down. I love everybody.
You do, and I know that. Already. All right, gentlemen. I told my husband I'd be ready for dinner about 8 minutes ago, so I want to.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
We thank you so much. Sorry to keep you. Go enjoy your dinner.
Right. I hope we can hang out again, and next time we'll talk about tabbies and orange cats and.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people find us on iTunes and think it's that kind of cat.
Yeah,
We've had a lot of comments. This is not what I thought it was. So it wouldn't be the first time.
People are following because they think we're talking about feline.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Maggie, for joining us. Yeah, I remember some of those comments. They're not talking anything about cats. Awesome.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. She was great, man, and just. She's got her finger on the pulse of a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. But, I do have a Rockets jersey, just to let you know. NBA jersey day. So I got my Lakers jersey, and I got a whole lot.
I should have complied with that. I dropped the ball on this end. Yeah, I got the T-Mac in there with the Rockets, and I got the old Steve Francis with you remember the pinstripe phase the Rockets went through?
with the rocket actually on the jersey with the smile on his face.
Yeah, like a shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NBA teams have too many jerseys now.
And this is gonna sound real grandpa-ish. These new color schemes, you can't even tell who's playing sometimes. It'll be Dallas and Denver, and somebody's in pastel green. You can't. I'm like, who is who? That sounds like get off my lawn. But they've changed some of these colors. You don't even know who is who out there.
Yeah, I need to find the whole thing where they had like all the different combinations that was just absolutely ridiculous on all the different combinations they had for the NBA teams. You got the Pistons in green, you got the Lakers in baby blue. It just gets confusing to me. It just that's and I'm a jersey guy, don't get me wrong, but give me my Lakers gold and purple. That's all I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was nice when they brought the Sunday whites out. That was nice, but then it got to be too much.
Don't know when to quit.
Like last night's game between the Lakers and Celtics, that game should be mandated. They got to play. Boston got to be in green. Lakers got to be in gold. Boston's in white. Lakers got to be in purple. Like it's got to be mandated.
Yep. Just the way it, yeah, just to keep, because that's been 60, 70 years battling against each other. And you think green, you think purple and gold. You just,
all those,
even if you hate both teams, that's what you think. So,
and I don't know why people would hate both teams. Sounds like folks out there hate winners. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I mean, if you hate losing to both of them, your team couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was in the 80s. It was a great series. It was going to be good basketball as a kid. Just hate that it was those teams every year. But seeing those rematches, it was still fun to watch. It was still compelling. It was still battling out. Those rematches were still more compelling than Kentucky Iowa 2.0 in the bowl game. Even all Lakers Celtics again in 87 and 85 and 88. Okay, but I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch every game.
That reminds me. This is my get off my lawn moment. NBA Paint, I think is the name of the account I follow, had a question. Your favorite, or I guess your top 5 playoff performers in NBA history. I quote tweeted and said, if I'm going playoffs, I'm going with James Worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some youth say, what? And I'm like, all righty. And so not only did he increase all his statistics for the playoffs significantly from regular season, you and I have talked about Isaiah Thomas in 88, game 6 on the busted up ankle. What's underrated about that is James Worthy going 36, 16, and 10 in the game 7 victory. Like, he was the best player in the 88 playoffs on a team with Magic and Kareem on it.
Mm-hmm.
He was that dude. So, yeah.
And then game 7, they needed every one of those points and rebounds and assists.
They did. Kareem had 4.
They won. The Lakers won by, it was 108, 105. I'll never forget it. So they needed every ounce of Worthy that night.
Absolutely. And so, as I told the youth, James Worthy is better than you probably remember. Mm-hmm. It was just, I mean, he was the third guy on a team led by Magic and Kareem. But as I've told you, if your third option is James Worthy, you're going to win a lot of championships. If he's your third dude.
I was watching, I know you've seen it. I might have been late to the party, but got the Hulu, got the ESPN Plus stuff now. So the whole, what is it, Best of Enemies, the 30 for 30 Celtics Lakers. Mm-hmm. Ice Cube's narrating the Lakers side, Donnie Wahlberg's narrating for the Celtics. Worthy probably doesn't get enough credit. And I mean, you've went through mentioning who comes off the bench, who starts. But to be a big, because he was 6'9", but nobody was running the floor like him back then. You had Mikal, he was great with all his moves and stuff, but then Worthy could bring him out and ISO him and blow by him or shoot the jumper over him. He was wearing a lot of hats back in the 80s.
Yes.
It's nothing now. But for him back then, too quick for him, but big enough to bang and rebound with. Oh man, hey.
Look, that's why I'm not as upset with the Lakers being hot garbage right now, because the simple fact that fate or whatever, we got Magic in a coin flip and we got Worthy in a bizarre trick. Like, look, man, I get it. I get why the NBA didn't want the Chris Paul trade to go through. The Lakers have been fortunate, dude. They really have been. And you look what we gave up for Kareem, what we gave up for Wilt. Hey, the universe is just writing itself. Like, there's just no way, trading away to get Kobe.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
People talk about the Lakers front office. The Lakers front office has never really been great. They've been very, very lucky since they left Minneapolis.
Yeah.
You end up by a twist of fate with Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. That's a great way to start a franchise in Los Angeles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Wilt wants to come, and then Kareem wants to come. Like,
I don't know. I don't even know who they traded to get Kareem. I know it's before our time, but I don't even know those dudes. I don't even know who they sent.
The one of the guys that went to the Bucks, I can't remember his name. He wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he was like one of those dudes that might get his jersey retired. I can't remember his name. I have to look it up, which isn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't bad. Now it's coming up, the Anthony Davis trade. Did the Lakers win? Yes, they got a championship.
Mm-hmm.
I can't clown on the Rams for being hot garbage now, because they mortgaged everything to win a championship. And so to me, the championship, you won, right? Like, whatever comes after, you got the championship, unless you're doing like the Cubs, where you're just not even trying to be competitive. There's a way that you mortgage things for the championship. There's a way you dismantle and rebuild. And the Cubs aren't doing that. Speaking of championships, I'm looking at the NFL standings. I'm looking at the NFC right now.
Oh boy.
Your Cowboys are 10-3.
Yes, they are.
Woo!
Yes, they are. They were tripping Sunday and still beat them Texans. Got to do better in a couple weeks when them Eagles come. But we'll take that narrow, nail-biting win against the Texans. We will take it.
So what I think is pretty amazing is my Niners are 9-4. If they win on Thursday night, tomorrow night, against the Seahawks, they will clinch their division, the NFC West, which will be the earliest time we have clinched since 2011.
Man, okay.
And you're probably asking, well, how many NFC West titles they have? I don't know. I don't keep track of such things. But Brock Purdy, man,
Dang.
looks good. And Tom Brady, try to be a family man. He's 45. Look, like you and I talked about with LeBron. Think about it. You're 20 years younger than a lot of your or older than a lot of your teammates. That sounds miserable. He's on a group project with a lot of 20-somethings. That sounds miserable. They listen to loud music. They talking about streaming, and you remember what it talks about to be kind, please rewind. Like, that just sounds like a miserable existence, Tom Brady. I don't know all his personal stuff, but man, you got a family, with a Brazilian supermodel, but instead you out here losing to Brock Purdy. Man, these streets ain't like that, fam. Like, you gotta go be a family man. But I'm liking my Niners, man. Debo thought was injured. Just a mild sprain. He'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Hey.
I'm like, hey, clinch this division. Let's rest up and get healthy. And if Brock Purdy ain't going to give away the farm, I like my squad. The best defense in all of the NFL. The best.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be a situation where the Cowboys going to have to go to Levi Stadium.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
And you know what I say is that? If that come to pass, we can beat you here and there. We can beat you everywhere, baby. I'm excited. It was great to see Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last dude taken, show out. There was that shot of his family in the stands, his dad, and talking about dad with the McGuire family at the Kentucky game. You and I know how important our dads were to us, how important we try to be. Hey, I feel you, because we've been both little McGuire and big McGuire now, right? There's been that moments where, like you said, we're talking to Sue earlier, where we remember our parents working all day, doing all this kind of stuff. They promised to take you to the circus or to whatever, and they did it. And when you become a parent, you understand some of them days you don't want to do all that kind of stuff.
Yo.
But your kids ask you to do something and you do it, right? It may not be in a coal mine, whatever your job is.
Yeah.
You may not want to do it, but you do it for the kids, because that's what dads do. One of my favorite stories, I'm gonna tell this. It's my brother's birthday. Kenneth would have been 62. But one of my favorite stories ever. I was playing the violin in the first grade. And if you've ever heard a 6-year-old play the violin, it's not great. So we had a little concert, or whatever you call it. And my dad, he's assistant chief. And I want to say this was on a Friday night. Something came up. He was going to have to go do something with the mayor's office and all these kinds of things. He wasn't going to be able to make it. And I was devastated. Yes, my mom was coming. I was devastated. So we getting ready. And I look out and I see my dad in his full uniform sitting there. I had a solo. I came out, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I can still see it now. It's terrible, Vinny. It's terrible. I'm out there screeching on this violin. And I'm thinking, even 6-year-old TB is like, this is not great.
Oh.
My father stands up. He applauds, and he says, "That's my boy." And he applauds. 40 years ago. So that's where I went when I saw that picture of the McGuires when it first went viral. It's those moments with my own father, where you're like, and you and I talk about it all the time. That's what dads do. I understand being a mom. It's tough. It's a job. I've seen what moms have to do. I don't want no part of that. I get it. I concede it's the toughest job. But being a father is also a difficult task to be a good one.
Yeah.
And so when I see moments like that, I think about, again, what my father meant to me, what I try to mean to my girls. And I know you feel the same way, because I know how you talk about your father. And so that picture, yes, it's representing Kentucky, and yes, it's the basketball. But for that moment, that's what Sue said. It was just a father and a son having a moment. That's what spoke to me. So I got myself all wound up, but
yeah, and
it's an emotional day around here.
Yeah, and she hadn't seen the cats in person before, but she said herself, she watched Mike and Easton more than she watched the game. Been waiting for the Cats to come to the game for months, and you sitting looking past across the court, looking over the action, because you see him with his little boy. He didn't even have time to go shower. He didn't even time to wipe his face. Just picked this boy up, and we gonna go to this game. So absolutely, yeah.
Like I said, that's what spoke to me so much about that is just fathers and sons, man. You know, I ain't gonna. I got to move on to something else. Give you some trouble about the Rockets or the Braves or something, because don't need me here boo-hooing. But that was just a special picture, special moment. Like I said, I tell that story all the time about my own dad. You know, dads are important. I'll just leave it at that. But do the Rockets have a better record than the Lakers right now?
They do not. Y'all are 2 games ahead of us. Y'all 12th in the West at 11-16. Houston is 15th in the West at 9-18. So, but hey, we beat beat the Suns last night. You know, they beat a few good teams, and they got some pieces, some young pieces. It's gonna take some time for Jalen Green and all those guys to. And speaking of fathers and sons, Steven Silas just lost his father, Paul Silas. He was out, and he came back in his press conference. I'm proud to be my father's son. I don't mean to take us back there, but that know what he's going through. So
absolutely,
you know,
and you and I have talked about it all the time. It's a joyous burden. And that's how I've explained to people, when your father was that dude, it's big shoes to fill. Admittedly, it's big shoes to fill, but it's a joyous burden to have to do it. I used to run from it, but then I understood, no, this is the legacy that you want to have. So
we talked about it with Roy Wood Jr. when he was on. He talked. His dad was doing the radio show with Ernie Banks, and you know he was that. So that and same kind of thing, man.
And I feel for kids that don't have that in their life, because you know, my dad was that dude. Now my mom is she bad too. Like, you know, don't go. I've had to tell a few family folks to try to come sideways. Like, no, my dad was just a loud one. The tough one is Mama B now. Like, I remember, I don't know what was going on, but I remember growing up something, and my dad was like, "I'm the easy one." I'm like, "Oh, word? Okay." You know, that's what my brothers told me. It was like, hey, Dad's just loud. Mom is okay, for real. Okay. But
how much stuff did they try to give you with, oh man, they're a lot easier on Terry than they was on us because you were so much younger. Oh man, we never would have got away with that. Y'all let him do this? What?
Well, but here's the thing with my parents, it wasn't about getting away. My dad told me, he's like, look, because my dad was 40 when I was born, right? So as I'm growing up, starting that teenage, smelling yourself, he said, look, I'm old now. My dad told me, he's like, I'm an old man. You know, he's in his 50s when I'm getting to be a teenager. He said, I'm gonna give you one warning. That's all I got in me. That's all I got. You get one. Because I don't have this back and forth kind of thing. So my brothers would say, oh, you got the kinder, gentler mom and dad. I'm like, that's all relative. It's all relative, man. Like, don't y'all try to make like my dad's a big pushover now. Like, are you serious?
Because, you know, it's you hear Lou Rowe and Derrick Rose say, oh man, y'all got an easy version of Cal than us. So I always wonder, because, you know, my wife is 10 years, she's the third child like you. She's 10 years younger than her sister. So you being, you know, there was teenagers when you were born. So I was like, man, I wonder if Mama beating them had softened up a little bit and just was like,
no. they didn't soften up. But today's my brother Kenneth's birthday. He's the reason I love basketball. He was a very good basketball player. He was 6'5". And the thing was, he had kind of a bad attitude, so my dad didn't let him play basketball his senior year because he had a bad attitude. But he's the reason I love basketball, and we would watch basketball. His favorite player was Isaiah Thomas. He loved Zeke, and he's the reason I love the point guard position. It's all about getting to your spots on the court and different things like that, and being the conductor of the team, right? And what that point guard was. Now, I never had the skills to be a point guard because I still can't dribble with my left hand that well. But we love basketball. We went to basketball. My family had season tickets to U of L basketball games back in the Metro Conference days. And me and my brothers would go. All those Louisville games, the Metro Conference tournament. I saw my first fist fight with my brothers. It was Louisville versus Memphis State. I might have been 9. And, of course, Mama B went to Memphis State way back when. But we went to Freedom Hall, and we left. And those games were always rough between Louisville and Memphis State. And some Memphis State fans, about 4 or 5 of them, were loud talking my brothers. And my brother Killer said, "Little brother, stay behind us." And they beat these dudes. Like, there's 4 of them, and my brothers beat these dudes like they, And so they were like, don't tell mom. Don't tell my dad. They won't let us come out anymore. But, I shared this story. I'll share it here again. The difference was when my brothers were born, my parents were in a different financial situation. They were born, my dad had just joined the police department, and my mother had started teaching. When I came along, my dad was a sergeant by the time I was born. And my mom so it was different. I grew up in the suburbs. My brothers grew up in the streets. And so when I was playing basketball growing up, I was in a gym. It was temperature controlled. I had appropriate sneakers, right? And so my brother, God love him, he was like, "No, you need to go play street ball." And so we went to Shawnee Park where they played the dirt ball and all this kind of stuff. So way back then, they had a big court, which was the little NBA. It was the game,
the main court, yeah.
Right. But they had a different court that was for the little kids. And again, I'm in the suburbs. I'm not used to playing this style. I was soft. I'll go ahead and say that. So I got bumped, tried to call a foul. They didn't want to give it to me. I was ready to go. I went to go tell my brother. I said, "Ken," I was like, "these people don't know what they're doing. This is not appropriate." My brother said, "Look," he put a few words in there. He said, "No, they bump you, you bump them back. We're not leaving. You're going to go back out there. You're going to play basketball." And so that summer, that's a life lesson. You get bumped, you bump back. That's what you do, right? And so I'm very thankful for that and for that relationship with my brother Kenneth. He was a great man.
Yeah.
And as I always ask people when I share these kinds of things, just think about my mother. She's great, but I'll call her here when we finish up. We always like to call and share stories and all that kind of stuff. But my brother Kenneth, he was great. He was a police officer like my dad, followed my dad into that. And so I said I wasn't going to boo-hoo tonight, but I got to share stories about the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to for sure. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing them as always. And Tim on BB said, "Hey, I know y'all have a good phone call once you get on the talk with him for sure."
So my brother, he went to U of L. He was there when they won in 1980. there's a picture in one of our scrapbooks. He's on the team bus when they came back from the 1980 Final Four. He's on top of the bus. It was in the newspaper. So, like I said, he was diehard Cardinals, diehard. When he started working, he had his own season tickets. And so they gave me the blues when I went to Kentucky, right? Because back then, a kid from Louisville going to Kentucky. And so it was probably my sophomore year. I come home one time and Kenneth's got a Kentucky shirt on, sweatshirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what do your friends think? He said, they don't say anything because I'm wearing this because this is where my little brother goes to school. And yeah.
Man.
Great man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, we won't top that at all. We can.
Said I wasn't going to boo-hoo, but here I am boo-hooing.
Wow. Understandable. Completely understandable. And we ain't going to top that story.
Yeah. But thank you to our guests. Sue was great. Maggie was great. We'll have them back on. So we thank them for jumping on. It's always a great show when you got great guests.
Yes. They make it, man.
It makes it easier. People ask me, I want to start a podcast. What's your secret? Get good guests.
Mm-hmm. And the more the show they carry, the better. And there's times when you just sit back. And and there's times we ask questions and have back and forth. But there's been some where we just part of their show.
Right. We talked about how great Sinbad was. I listened to that whole 30 minutes of that interview. That was fantastic. Probably the best fun I've ever had on the show was when we had Sonny Collins and Derek Ramsey come on, and your dad and his buddy called in as well and ran the show. The best fun I've ever had doing this was that night right there. So
so absolutely. Well, man, we love y'all and always thinking about you. And I didn't get to meet you, brother. And if anything like you, of course, I know he's a good dude. So
I think about it. He would have liked knowing I had a show, and I think about it when I cover the games because, like I said, basketball was his thing. And when I'm going to Rupp to cover games, I'm going to the NCAA tournament. I'm I know he's looking down. I know he would appreciate that. So
for sure. Well, man, appreciate you, and like you said, appreciate our guest, and this was another good one that will get added, and hope everybody enjoys it, and be back at it again next week. I think we got a couple Wednesdays in a row where Kentucky got games. I think it's Florida A&M next week, and then Missouri the Wednesday after that. So
are they bringing the band?
They need to. Need to text Roy and see if he coming and the band coming. So because he missed the FAMU. So
that's right. Get the band going, man. But always a good show. Always a good show.
Yes, sir. So, man, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hugs to the family and you and Mama B and everybody. And
same to you and your Katie.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Pro Katie podcast here.
That's right. We'll say good night to everybody. Appreciate everybody takes the time to watch. For my man TV, this is Vinny with another episode of Cats Talk Wednesday. And we'll hit this outro button. Play some promos next week. I forgot to promote some other shows that are on here. There's buttons for that. I didn't do it. But we'll go out. It'll say thanks for watching because we appreciate y'all watching. And we'll see y'all next week.